Hello and welcome to the Penalty Box Perspective podcast. My name's Nathaniel and I'm joined yet again by my good friend Matt. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good, mate. Thank you. Yeah, welcome back. Welcome back. Do you have a good trip away?
I certainly did. I don't know if you can see just over my shoulder here, I've got a nice football scarf from a WSG Tyrol, who I watched play and beat Grazia AK 2-0 in the Austrian Bundesliga.
Fuck
But yeah, I did have a trip to Innsbruck, saw some family, and had an absolute great time, if I'm honest. It really shames the UK for
Everything.
how shit we are.
Oh, good stuff.
How are you been?
Glad. Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Glad you had a good time. Glad you're back for some NHL conversations so that I'm not having to talk to myself for 40 minutes. It was a struggle. We got through it, and I managed to get through it without crying or shitting myself. So yeah, we did all right.
You don't want to trade away from this podcast
No,
after that conversation?
no, absolutely not. No place I'd rather be.
It's rather be not even for future considerations. Right, we'll go into it, and we're going to start where we generally always start, the Central Division, just because our favourite teams play there, I think.
Yeah, and it's not the Pacific.
And it's not the Pacific, which we will have to talk about way down the line. So you don't have to worry about that. Yeah. So we'll start off with the Central. We'll start off with the first team in the Central Division. No shock, no change. Colorado Avalanche, 95 points. They're back to sort of winning ways after a slowish start last week. But 4 games, 4 wins, 2 in a shootout.
Yeah. They're kind of seemingly back into their groove, aren't they? Couple of shootout wins there, which we always say it's the flip of a coin. They've landed up on top for Colorado this week, but 8 points available, 8 points taken, 8 points for Marty Natchez, 7 for McKinnon. This team's terrific. We say it every single week. Really impressive for them to get those shootout victories over the Stars and the Wild. Obviously, I know we'll probably touch on that a bit more with the next two teams, but asserting their dominance and their chokehold on the Central Division, and putting their hat in the ring for the President's Trophy if it wasn't already firmly in it.
Yeah, I mean the games they're playing, the Kings, who obviously a bit of a up and down in a minute, but they've got the Ducks, who are doing well in their division, Stars and the Wild, who are the two closest competitors, and they're just winning. So it's one of them. It's not like they've had an easy week either. They played some top teams and played essentially playoff hockey in the regular season. So good for them. They got a game coming up against the Oilers at home, followed by the Kraken and then the Jets away next week. I'm expecting another 6 points from those, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it'll be a good game against the Oilers. Obviously, it's always good to watch McKinnon and McDavid kind of square off against each other. They've both, well past 100 points this season now, so I think that could be an offensively explosive game, I think. And then, the Kraken and the Jets are the Kraken and the Jets. They'll probably dog walk the pair of them. Yeah.
We'll go into the second place team. The Dallas Stars, 88 points. A record of 39, 14 and 10, plus 47. They've had another good week, as expected. They finished off the Canadian away trip, beating the Canucks and the Flames 6-1 apiece. They lost that shootout against the Avalanche, and then took your Blackhawks to overtime, and then beat them in overtime. So, 7 points out of 8 season, separate themselves a bit from the third place team.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about Dallas's depth, and for them to have 6 players all at a point per game or better, I think they have the deepest roster in the NHL. I think that the star power that the Avalanche have outweighs that of the of the Stars. But I think you look top to bottom at that roster, and I think they've got the best in the league in terms of their actual kind of four offensive lines, 3D pairs. Yeah, I think they're absolutely fantastic. They get to be rewarded now with 3 games at home against the Golden Knights, the Oilers, and the Red Wings. And yeah, like you said, they've separated themselves a little bit from the third place team. I think that the way that the top 3 teams in the Central sit now is probably the way it will sit for the rest of the season, barring some sort of absolute catastrophe. Yeah, they're outstanding, and I've got a little sneaky suspicious feeling about Dallas this year. I think this might be their year.
You really think so? I mean, their depth is unquestionable. They're winning games. Their record speaks for itself. They're fantastic. I mean, they're the second best team in the league in terms of standings. And they're doing this without Rantanen since the Olympics. I'm not sure where we're at, but I know Hintz had a pretty nasty looking knee injury. I'm not sure whether they've announced news whether he's going to come back or not. I will just check on that briefly.
Yeah, it was a nasty one, and knee injuries especially are always so difficult, especially when they're cutting and chopping and changing directions all the time. Probably similarly to what you would see in like the NFL. I'm sure if some like the wide receivers or something pick up like a knee injury, it massively impacts their kind of change of direction and everything. So hopefully he's not too bad. Do we have an update on that, Dr. Nathaniel?
Yeah, Dr. Nat. Couple of weeks, which is very open-ended. What does that actually mean? I can realistically see that. Well, we'll see where he is in a couple of weeks. If we're dead set in second place, it might then prolong
just
into playoffs.
Yeah.
At that point, it might be the same for Rantanen as well. If they can just scrape through, they might bring him back for a couple of games before the playoffs, just in order to get them sort of warmed up a bit, get a little bit of rust off of them. But they're under no pressure really to push it through.
No, none at all. None at all.
No. We'll go into then the third place team, which is my Minnesota Wild. 3 games this week, 2 wins and a shootout loss. We beat the Lightning, the Golden Knights, and fairly comfortably for me, 2 potentially top teams. Then just lost in the shootout against the Avalanche in a game. For me, they should have won.
Yeah, we spoke about this last week and the fact that Minnesota had a really, really tough schedule coming up, and they've absolutely delivered. Beating the Lightning 5-1 is no easy feat. The Golden Knights as well. I mean, whatever we think about the Golden Knights, they are still a good hockey team. And from having watched the highlights this morning, I mean, I didn't watch the full game between them and the Avalanche, but it certainly seemed as though it was close. But I think Minnesota probably did have the better chances, and maybe just didn't quite get the finish on the night. In that regard, I'm glad they were able to take a point away from it. At least so they had something to show for their efforts. But yeah, they're now 85 points now, 3 points back from Dallas. So not insurmountable by any stretch of the imagination, and those two might well swap over. I don't think they will, for what it's worth. I suppose it kind of depends on the Hintz injury for Dallas and if that impacts them too much. But I'm not trying to tempt fate when I say this, and I'm not trying to curse anyone, but I'm so happy with Kirill Kaprizov's fitness this season.
You like to say it.
One of my biggest issues was when he signed that contract extension in the summer is, this is a guy who just misses games all the time, constantly picks up injuries, never really massive injuries, but several small kind of niggles, that sort of thing. And he's he's been right there this year. He's been fit, he's been firing, he's been absolutely unbelievable, as you would typically expect Kaprizov to be. I think he probably just scrapes into the 100-point mark this year. He's got what? They've played 64 games, so they've got another 18 to go. 76 points. I don't think it's impossible. He'll certainly
2 is 3, quick maths.
Yeah, he'll certainly pass 90, and
yes,
that's for sure. And that'll represent another fantastic season for for Kaprizov, and I think Boldy could be right up there with him. I do just kind of looking down this, this line. There is a little bit of a drop off now. Obviously, that isn't factoring in Quinn Hughes' total points scoring for this season. Obviously, he's got 40 points in 32 games for Minnesota, so he's been exactly as advertised. But there is a bit of a drop off from 72 from Boldy down to 43 for Eric Sinek. But I still absolutely love this Minnesota team. I did say on the pod I did on my own, they're the team I want to win the Stanley Cup for reasons that we're going to touch on when we reach Chicago. Not only because it'll make you happy, but I also have additional investment in Minnesota now. So they're the team I want to win it. Dallas are the team who I think will win it.
Yeah. I will touch on, since I wasn't with you on that last episode talking the trade stuff, about Minnesota's moves. Obviously, I paid particular interest in Minnesota more than any other team. But the biggest thing that we were talking about ahead of time was, are we going to trade Wallstead? Are we going to get another or potential first-line centre? And that's where all the focus was on. And I think we were in on Trocheck. I think we got priced out of that. And I think it's very sensible not to just jump into that anyway and just send over the picks as much as we can.
I completely agree.
They wanted like a first prospect and a NHL player as well, and I was just like, nah.
Yeah, and I get that in sellers markets, there will always be contenders who will, offer. I mean, we've seen some outrageous trades over the last few years. Even like Scott Lawton going to Toronto for a first last year was, absolutely crazy. Then got traded for a third a year later, but that's neither here nor there. But I think it is very, very sensible GMing to not just yes, they wanted a first line center. Yes, they probably need a first line center, but if the offer on the table from the Rangers was just ridiculous and they weren't going to move on that whatsoever, then I think that's really, really sensible and really sort of commendable for not just bending over to the New York Rangers' will. I mean, they've got no leverage in this situation at all. So no, I think that was a great decision from Minnesota.
And then we focused on, instead of the first line centre, is sort of filling out a bit of the roster. You mentioned that there's a bit of a drop off between Kaprizov and Boldy, and we're not going to see these in the difference of the stats come the end of the year just due to how many games are left. But we signed Bobby Brink, who's started off well. It's a good sort of second line scorer, especially since Johansson's been out injured. But then we've been focusing mainly on the back end of the roster. Our fourth line's completely changed now as to what it was before. Tarasenko hadn't been performing, but in the second line scoring role we expected from him. But in terms of a checking third line with Trenin and Yurov, I think that they've been a great Russian third line there. So I think we've made some really good moves, especially a decor as well. We got rid of Jiricek, who was a failure, and we've just sort of bolstered it out a bit more. So I'm actually really happy, and this is where I wanted to draw a line with Minnesota, is that I'm happy with the moves that we made. We've still got Wallstead. If he gets traded in the off-season and things like that, we'll see how that looks like moving forward into next year. But I'm not unhappy.
Yeah, that's. I think Wallsted's probably more of a trade for the. I could see that maybe happening at the draft, something like that. But yeah, that's it. And there's a lot to be said for guys not performing, but they're playing in roles that they're not really supposed to be playing in. Tarasenko has been a great player in this league. Tarasenko at this stage of his career is not the second line center that you sign him to be. It makes I always think of I don't know if you've ever watched Moneyball, the film. Um,
I haven't.
so there's a great moment where Brad Pitt tells one of his players that he's not paying him for the player that he used to be. He's paying him for the player that he is right now. So you're not paying Tarasenko to be that all-star second line scorer on the cover of the NHL video game guy. You're paying him to be a third line checking depth scoring option. And the moves that they've made, okay, they didn't get their first line center, but what they were able to do is add enough depth that now they can actually play players in their respective positions where they're going to excel. And I think that's massive. So yeah, I would be very happy as a Minnesota fan with everything that they've done.
Well, let's put it to good use, please.
Yeah.
We'll move on into the fourth place team, the Utah Mammoth. Remaining in fourth place in an island by themselves, sat on 73 points, record of 34, 25 and 5, with a plus 27 plus minus. Again, they've had another solid week, and if they're in another division, I think they do quite well. But yeah, middle of an away trip, they get 3 wins and 1 overtime loss for another 7 points in 8.
Yeah, another good week for them. Like I said, they are kind of weirdly just cast adrift completely on their own. They're 12 points back from Minnesota, but they're also 9 points ahead of Nashville. So they're kind of just like out there doing their thing. Another 7 points out of 8 picked up. Another good week for them. Some good goaltending. Vanchek getting a shutout as well. They just can't beat the Blackhawks. They've really struggled against them this year, weirdly enough. But yeah, they've got the Wild coming up next on the road, and then they play the Blackhawks again. And then they play the Pittsburgh Penguins also at home. Really weird sort of scheduling with the Blackhawks. I think they played them, I want to say, in like the 4th game of the season. And then they haven't played them at all. And then they play each other I think it was like 3 times in 10 days or something. Really bizarre scheduling. It's not something I've ever really seen. But they've got a player up at a point per game now. Keller's got 64 in 64. So great performance from them. I'm kind of intrigued to see what this team can maybe do in the playoffs. I think they are kind of a shoe-in, I think, for the wildcard spots. Don't know if kind of Mackenzie Weegar necessarily pushes them over the top or not. I like Mackenzie Weegar, but I don't think he's the difference maker between them sort of being cup contenders or not. But a nice move nonetheless. And it was a complete fantasy NHL 26 franchise mode trade. Was that one? I absolutely loved it. I was like, and a second round pick, and a second round pick, and another second round pick. Just fucking give it all. I'm just trying to get that trade meter just to like bump it up a little bit. A little bit,
and then so just now kind of repropose.
Yeah. And Calgary now have like half of the second round this year. All good from Utah. They're still hanging out, and I think they'll probably stay put at this point.
Yeah, I don't know why they made that trade, if I'm honest, because they can't see themselves as Stanley Cup contenders. But they also are going to make the playoffs. So really, what you're doing is you're trading in your flexibility in the draft for a player for a push now, where that wasn't really, I guess, a weakness. Like you said, he isn't that big a difference maker. He's probably the best defenseman on the Flames after Anderson left. But where's he going to play in your lineup? He's not going to be top line. So it's just kind of a bit weird.
Yeah, it seemed like quite a lot to give up. I mean, he's still got 5 years left on his current deal at sort of 6.25 million, which I think is a good sort of dollar figure, especially kind of when we see the way that the cap's going. Obviously, he can play both sides pretty comfortably as well. 32 years old, that'll take him up to kind of 37. I suppose it's just like, they've got a lot of really promising, exciting young players. I suppose it's just kind of supplementing in a little bit of kind of veteran help there. A couple of those second round picks they did trade will be sort of late ones anyway. So, you're trading kind of into the 50s in the draft. So, I don't I don't hate it. I don't love it at the same time. I think they maybe gave up a second round pick too many. But this is an
It just
example.
seems like a trade for making a trade.
Yeah, it's an example of a team, I think, bending to the will of the seller. Um, they. I wouldn't have been surprised if, if it had been Minnesota, for example, they'd have said, we want 3 seconds. Minnesota would have gone, well, no, we'll give you 2 seconds, and we're not giving you anything more. And if that's the way that it ends up going, then that's the way it ends up going. But they needed maybe a little bit more experience and quality on that back line. They went and got it, so I'm kind of not too mad at them for that, I suppose. Just makes the Central Division that bit more challenging.
Yeah, a bit stronger. Yeah, maybe they signed him just purely to wrap up Connor Bedard. We'll see. See the Bedard whisperer. Right. 5th place in this division, the Nashville Predators, 64 points, as you mentioned, 9 points behind. This is where there's a big separation. They're on minus 29 plus minus 28, 27 and 8 record, 4 games, 3 losses and a singular win.
Yeah, against the Bruins of all teams, but yeah, they had a bit of a kind of weird schedule. I could well have seen Nashville winning 3 of these games. As it transpires, they've only won 1. They were in a lot of those games. I mean, a 4-2 loss to the Red Wings, 3-2 to the Blue Jackets, 3-2 to the Sabres. So they were competitive enough. They just didn't have enough on the night. Forsberg and Stamkos still kind of being there at a point per game. They didn't move any of those kind of big ticket players that we thought they might. Obviously, O'Reilly stayed put, Forsberg, Stamkos stayed put as well. So maybe they didn't get the offers. Maybe the players are happy there. Maybe Nashville feel like they want to give it one more go around. I don't know. But they've got the Kraken and the Canucks and the Oilers coming up on the road. So I'm going to say the same thing I did last week. There's certainly some wins available for them there, potentially. But they're kind of comfortably 5th, I think, at the moment.
Here we are, right? This Kraken game is quite important. Because the Kraken, I think, right now sit in the last wildcard spot on 67 points. Nashville's on 64 points. There is a possibility that if they beat the Kraken tonight, they're 1 point out from a playoff spot, which I didn't necessarily realise, and it's quite terrifying that a team like Nashville Predators could be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it would be. I think it's just going to show kind of the nature of the league this year. I mean, it's all very, very close in those kind of wildcard positions. I mean, San Jose are still kind of in there. The Kings are still in there. Even the Winnipeg Jets are only 5 points out of a wildcard spot. We're kind of, with 20 games to go. So it's kind of not impossible. Improbable, probably, but that will be a more interesting game than it looks on paper, I think.
The Predators Kraken game. Oh, get it on your big screen. Let's do it. Let's show how hardcore a fan you are.
Jesus.
We'll go into 6th place. We just touched on them, but the Winnipeg Jets, are they back? I don't know, but they've had 3 games in 3, 6 points.
Yeah, they're it's almost kind of annoying at this point. You've had all season to do this. Why are you doing this now? I suppose they're just trying to add a little bit of sort of late entertainment value. But yeah, they pick up an OT win against the Blackhawks. They beat the Lightning 4-1. And then beat the Canucks in overtime as well. Shifley and Connor being there amongst the points. When that line works, it really works, and they look really good. But it's just not a great deal after that. But yeah, Hellebuck's found his, found his groove this week as well. 928 save percentage across those 3 games, with a 165 goals against. So, again, it's another 3 games played by Connor Hellebuck. So, they do what they do every season and they ride him into the dirt. They've got the Ducks, the Rangers, the Avs, and the Blues coming up, all at home. So, I don't know, we could be talking about the Winnipeg Jets being back in a playoff charge next week. I don't know.
It's weird, and I will temper our expectations a little bit, and not to throw shade at your Blackhawks, but it's been a story of their season where they take games to overtime, and sometimes they win them, sometimes they lose them. They're not the biggest competition at this moment in time. The Canucks are the Canucks; they're the worst team in the league, but they took both of them teams to overtime to win. They did beat the Lightning 4-1, but as we will discuss shortly, the Lightning are in some weird rut. They seem to be losing every game, regardless at the minute, which is very, very strange and eerie. So, yes, they've won 3 this week. However, it is with the little asterisks in the corner.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, maybe don't believe it. For me.
Yeah. We'll see, but it's gonna make for some interesting. A lot of the tops of these divisions are already pretty set out, so the wildcard chase is probably going to be the most interesting part at the end of the season.
Yeah. So Predators Kraken is going to be a game to look out for, and then maybe I don't know, the Jets against Jets Rangers. Fancy it. No.
Shut up. No chance.
Right. 7th place in this division, and we finally got a change in the standings, and not in your favour. Upper spot is the St. Louis Blues. The Blues are ahead of the Blackhawks. 59 points, 25, 29, and 9 on a minus 46. St. Louis Blues have won 3 games out of 3.
Yeah, they have, and Rob Thomas came in with 5 points throughout that, so clearly not impacted by all the trade talk. They're on the same amount of points as the Blackhawks. They've had a good week. They've won some games. They've played some good hockey. Hofer got a shutout. They're still minus 46 on the goal differential. Yeah. They've still got a worse. A day. They've still got a worse goal differential than the Blackhawks, so I'll take that. Small wins.
Small wins. Binnington's still on this team, notably. There's lots of talks about him, the relationship being a bit fractured. It's not going to help where Hofer is getting shut out and yet another shutout. And they beat some better teams as opposed to the Jets, I'd say, as well, when they come this way. So you never know, they might make a push for solidify 7th.
Yeah, maybe. Binnington's pads have been fractured all season. Honestly, he's got more holes than sheet of honeycomb. I don't know. I was trying to think of an appropriate hole-based reference there that wasn't going to get us booted. Nice.
I was waiting. You almost trapped yourself there.
I almost forgot about the soundboard there. Thank you very much for bringing that back in. Right, can we move on to the 8th team, please? Because I don't like talking about this team.
How about no?
No, sorry. I'll stop. The Chicago Blackhawks, they are down a spot, 59 points. 24, 29, and 11, minus 35 goal differential. And I always have to expend extra energy on this team in terms of our preparation spreadsheet because they always end up with a game in overtime and requires me to put an O in front of their results.
Yeah, they like their OT at the moment. Um, look, um, they're still way better than they were last year. They have just.
Agreed.
I don't know when the last time this happened, but I don't know when a team traded away its captain and its two assistant captains in the same season. So their leadership group has, been decimated. They're having to just sort of put the A on. I mean, Bedard got one, which is kind of as you would expect. I kind of fully expect him to probably get the C in the summer. Tyler Bertuzzi's wearing one at the moment. So that it's a young team doing young team things. They have some absolute moments of brilliance. They have some moments of absolute kind of mind-boggliness. Sam Rinzel's had a couple of really good plays this week. He's had a couple of absolute stinkers. Levshinov's done the same. But what's been most poignant for me this week has been a bit of a return to form for Frank Nazar. Struggled a little bit in that mid part of the season. I think obviously he came into the year as a bit of an unknown entity, was able to play on that a little bit. I don't think teams were kind of expecting the skill and the speed. I think they came a bit more savvy to that, and he's now kind of adapted his game a little bit more to try and find a little bit more form. Bedard with 5 points in 4 games as well, and Tavo with a goal and 3 assists. They've been scoring a lot of goals on the power play. Disappointing loss to the Canucks. I mean, I will say that the Canucks got 2 empty netters in like the last 30 seconds there to make that scoreline look way worse than it does. And they've had a couple of goaltending losses as well. Arvid Soderblom's not played terrifically, as outlined by his .843 save percentage and .404 goals against average this week. He's had a bit of a nightmare, but yeah, it's been a tough week for the Blackhawks, especially as well. Obviously, they lost Troy Murray, who had been an absolute integral part of that organization for like 30 years. An unbelievable player for them. He'd been a part of the kind of radio commentary team, an all-round kind of awesome guy by the sounds of it. So the team was kind of suffering a little bit this week, sorry. With that loss there, and obviously with the loss of some of the players that they've had, I'm not kind of overly concerned. They're going to kind of wrap themselves up a nice, tidy, probably top 5 draft pick. The young players have come on leaps and bounds this year. Bedard's, had it not been for his injury, would have been right up there in the point scoring, and maybe this Blackhawks team looks completely different in terms of its standings if he didn't get injured. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that.
Yeah. As much as I poke fun, I have to look at it sort of holistically as well. You mentioned, and you have keep mentioning how this year's been different because the Blackhawks are in games. They're not getting blown out. They're not an awful team. We're just seeing over the length of a season, these youngsters they're getting roughed up a bit, and they're losing the close battles. They're losing the close games, and it's easily could be next year with that extra step, a few extra additions. That all these games that they're just losing by 1 or 2, they're actually winning by 1 or 2 instead, and you could rocket up the standings.
Yeah,
I think the progression is there. It's a positive upwards trajectory. It's not going to be an instant thing. So yes, you have dropped to the bottom of this division at this moment. You may or may not get a top 5 pick, but it does feel different.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
the previous couple of years.
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely. So they'll go out. They've got some really nice pieces on the way. As I mentioned every week, they'll have Frondell coming in. They'll have Kanserov coming in. They'll probably get a decent pick this year as well to kind of reload the prospect pool. They've acquired a first and a second round pick from Edmonton. They've got a whole ton of picks, which they've now got the capital to go and add a big player. And Kyle Davidson has always kind of remained firm on the fact that we're not just going to trade away assets to add someone for the sake of adding someone. Like, if we're going to add someone, it's got to be the right guy. It's got to be the right player with the right sort of timeline and everything. I know there's a lot of people saying last summer, just offer Mitch Marner all the money, and it's like, yeah, but what does a 29-year-old Mitch Marner do for this team right at this moment in time? Like, nothing really.
He's a player you sign in 2 years or so time when.
Yeah,
as a final
exactly.
piece kind of thing.
Exactly. And I would love to see maybe they go out and trade for Jason Robertson. Maybe they go out and trade for someone like Rob Thomas. I don't know. But they've got the pieces to be able to do it. They've got more young guys on the way. Yes, they're sat bottom of this division at the moment, but I'm incredibly happy with the season that they've had. And I'm kind of now got one eye on next season, feeling quite optimistic.
Yeah. I think you should be optimistic.
Yeah.
Really do like this team. With that, we'll be right back. We're going to take a short break.
Flames of the Week.
Another masterpiece by you, Matt.
Oh, hell yeah. And that sound means it's time for Plays of the Week. And it's not a biasy. We're coming back to Chicago. Shut up. They're the team I watched the most. Give me a break. Last night's game against the Utah Mammoth. Saw a bit of an unorthodox play. Andrei Burakovsky scoring, well, what seems like, first and foremost, his first game in fucking ages. I think it's like his first goal in like 25 games or something like that, something ridiculous. But he manages to like get a Michigan rebound. Shot comes in, hits the backboards. He's kind of stood by the post. He literally just scoops it up, shovels it, Michigan's it into the top corner. So he doesn't score that many, but he does like to score a beauty.
It does. I watched I didn't see it live or anything like that, but I watched a clip of it, and that guy shovels driveways in his spare time.
Oh,
the way he just scooped that in, perfect. So, a hero in the neighbourhood and hero on the ice last night. If only they managed to.
If only he could score. If he could score a few more goals, so that my fantasy hockey Burakovsky card on NHL 26 would keep going up in overall, that would be terrific. But instead, he's been sat at a 92 rated for the last 4 months, and doing my head in the process. But yeah, great play, Andre. Great goal. Came in a win as well, which we love to see.
To be honest, mate, I had no idea what you were talking about there. Again, it's showing my age. The overalls change.
Yes, yeah. So they do a specific event called Fantasy Hockey in EA NHL, where they're expensive cards to like acquire, but they start at like an 80, 81 overall, for example. And over the course of the season, when they score a goal in real life, they gain a +1 to their overall. Kind of with the viewpoint that by the end of the season, you'll have a 99 rated player. But obviously sometimes players absolutely go off and they hit 99 by like Christmas. Colton Parayko did it last year, where everyone who had a Colton Parayko fantasy card had like a 99 rated card by like November, December time. And it was just an absolute cheat code for the rest of the game. But yeah, I had to make Andrei Burakovsky for obvious reasons. And I thought, yeah, he will absolutely hit 99. He's now at 93. He needs 6 more goals to get there. So for the love of God, please score.
Surely that +2 for a Michigan. Or is it not based on that?
It's not, no. Defensemen get +2 for scoring a goal. So which is why it's usually the defensemen that kind of rock it up. You've got like Bowen Byram this year, who's absolutely flying. We do have a few 99s already this year. I think Dylan Cousins is there. Taylor Hall's nearly there. And then there's some that just absolutely flop. I think Chris Letang is still sat at like an 82 overall or something. So guys who like sunk a shitload of stuff into their from their collection into getting Chris Letang are now just sat with this absolute like duff. But hey, we'll move into some actual hockey and not my my EA NHL obsession.
Yeah, let's see some grass. I will touch on obviously the play that was the play of the week on the ice. Play of the week off the ice, I think, is the Nick Foligno trade to Minnesota. I think he wants to touch on that a little bit, but I think that was great.
Yeah, I think that look, I touched on it in the last episode. I'm gutted to see him go, but I'm so happy that he's got an opportunity to go and push for a cup in his final season. I do think it probably will be his final season. At this point, it kind of seems to point towards that, and he's never had the opportunity to play with Marcus. It'll be great to see them both together. There's probably never a better chance for him to join a Minnesota team that's pushing as hard as they are. And yeah, I think it just makes for great content, and hats off to the to the Chicago kind of backroom staff and Kyle Davidson and everything for not holding out for picks and prospects and things like that. Foligno's been an absolutely great servant to the Chicago team. He's captained them through a rebuild. He didn't have to do that. He could have gone and moved around, but he said he wanted to be invested in this rebuild, and he now says that the rebuild's at a point where he feels like he can hand the mantle over to someone else. So yeah, so I'm glad that he's just future considerations. So when Minnesota are in a position where they can't re-sign Matt Boldy due to their cap hit, remember that Nick Foligno trade. Those are the future considerations we're talking about.
I tell you what, we'll sell some tickets for you for like 75% of the price in order for you to make some money when you come over to Minnesota one time or something, or give you free hot dogs.
Yeah. Free hot dog and a beer is the future considerations in question.
No, I think it's going to be nice. It's a shame that Marcus has been injured since the sort of the Olympic break. Really, they haven't played together yet, but I can't wait for the time they do.
Yeah.
We're going to move then on into the Atlantic Division. Finally, it feels like we've been talking about the Central for quite some time, which is always good. I like it. But yeah, first place team in the Atlantic Division is the Buffalo Sabres. 84 points, up a spot, 39, 19 and 6 with a plus 32, 4 games played, 4 wins. They're a force, Matt.
They are an absolute force. And this season's been such a great exercise in like podcast hosting and just knowing that like all the comments and takes that you make just become instantly redundant within like a couple of weeks. I mean, going back a couple of weeks, it was like, yeah, I can't see anyone catching Tampa in this division. I think it's probably like, it's theirs to lose, and they're absolutely flying, but lost it they have. Now that's partially due to how absolutely shit hot the Buffalo Sabres are, as opposed to the hot shit that Tampa have been this week. But yeah, 4 wins, 3 of them at home, beating the Golden Knights, beating the Preds, beating the Lightning, beating the Penguins. They've got so many players at a point per game. They've got the Sharks, Capitals, and the Maple Leafs coming up at home next. So, I mean, this could be, and it's those teams that have that late flurry in the season that always end up going far and doing well. I always think of the year that St. Louis won the cup. That they were bottom of the standings at Christmas, and they just went on an absolute tear at the second half of the season, shot themselves up there, and shot themselves to Stanley Cup, glory. So I don't know. I think the Buffalo Sabres are going to break that playoff hoodoo, and we'll see what they do when they actually get there. But that game against the Lightning was absolute madness. 8-7 final score. Yeah, we're going to touch on it more with the Lightning next, but this team's an absolute juggernaut.
Yeah, absolutely, and I said it last week, and it feels like we're backtracking a little bit in terms of that. The Buffalo Sabres, everyone sort of hated on them because they're kind of a joke of a franchise, as opposed to the Blues, who we just generally dislike them for them being them. I think the miscontent with this team was just due to their incompetence. And as soon as that changes into them being competent, they're actually quite a fun team to watch.
Yeah.
And do well. And
Yeah,
they're an
absolutely.
underdog team. Yeah.
Like, you look at, like, the Blues and the Golden Knights are easy teams to dislike. Like, they are just legitimately dislikable teams. I think the reason that Buffalo got ragged on so much was just because, like, they were just an absolute mess. Top to bottom, the management was poor. They were trading, like, top 5 pick players within, like, a couple of years just to, like, oh, well, it's not working out, so we'll just, like, get rid of them for pennies on the dollar. And every year it was like, oh no, this is our year, and then they kind of fall apart, and they just became a complete joke of a franchise. But when they actually figure it out, and when they actually, they play how you would expect them to play, and they're managed how you would expect an NHL team to be managed, they are actually quite entertaining. And, a massive props to Jarmo Kekalainen, who obviously took the reins as GM. And that kind of signified the change in fortunes for this team as a whole. I mean, obviously, I know he's not on the ice himself, putting the puck in the net, but something switched when he took charge of this team. Something in the mentality, or something in the way that we view this team. I think Radim Mertka's face will look very different this time next year, and he won't be the haunted figure that we saw at the draft this year.
Oh, it's ridiculous, really, how the season's gone for the Buffalo Sabres. A complete flip-flop. I'm looking forward to seeing them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do. The fact that they get there is good enough. Good enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So, I mean, we know who's then dropped to second place. It is the Tampa Bay Lightning. We've sort of touched on them throughout this podcast, really, as they've been losing games. But 4 games this week, 3 losses and 1 victory, probably against the other team, who is probably worse in terms of the form standings at the minute.
Yeah. I was gonna literally follow that up with, you might lose to everyone else, but you can still back yourselves to beat the Maple Leafs. But yeah, losing, I mean, barring that Sabres game, which was just absolute madness, and I know that's not the last we're going to be talking about this game, some heavy losses to the Wild and the Jets, and we've spoken this a lot this year about how well they've been managed, especially kind of considering all the injuries that they've had. And obviously, I know they're getting some guys back now, and maybe it's sort of like a reintegration. I mean, Braden Point's still got 5 points in 4 games. Kucherov's still been unbelievable. Gensel's still been unbelievable. So yeah, it's I'm still not concerned. Like, they've just had a bad week. They're still going to be an absolute demon in the playoffs on experience alone. Yeah, an off week for them, to say the least. But yeah, it was a very bad week.
Yeah. Sort of explosive. It's mainly on the defense rather than offense. I mean, it's been a bit of both this week. But I don't think Victor Hedman, since he's come back, has been doing Victor Hedman things. Vasilevsky's been doing what he can, but it doesn't seem to be as forced like he kind of used to be. So it's worrying. It's shaky things. I still think they are going to make the playoffs, and it's a completely different kettle of fish once you're in there. But it is concerning. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how they bounce back. They've got the Blue Jackets, the Red Wings, and the Hurricanes coming up at home. So 3 games on home ice to kind of right the wrongs. But I'm looking forward to coming back to these guys next week and seeing how they fare.
Yeah. Upper spot into third is the Detroit Red Wings. They're sat on 79 points, so 3 points behind Tampa. A record of 36, 21, and 7, sat on a -1 plus-minus differential. The first time, again, this episode where teams kind of had a mixed results. Teams have either sort of won every game or lost every game. But they played 4 games, beat the Predators 4-2, then an overtime loss against the Golden Knights, a loss to the Panthers 3-1, but then beat the New Jersey Devils 3-0 with a shutout.
Yeah, I mean, this Detroit team, they made some additions at the deadline. Obviously, they added Justin Falk on the back end. Is what it is. I wasn't kind of completely crazy about that. I mean, Justin Falk he's a good, experienced defenseman, and as I pointed out at the time, what this Detroit team is lacking is kind of a bit more more experienced heads on the back end. I mean, like, Sider's great, and Sandon Pellica's great, and Simon Edvinson's great, but they're all quite young, and if they're going to want to push themselves into the playoffs, they're going to need someone with playoff experience and a bit more experience there. So didn't mind the addition of Falk. Kind of was what it was, really. But yeah, they're going to be kind of running this quite close. Obviously, they're a little bit back on, well, only 3 points behind Tampa. But I don't know. I think this battle for the third spot is going to be really, really interesting. You've got kind of 3 or 4 points separating a few teams. It's going to make it a nail biter, I think.
Yeah. In terms of the Western Conference, I think the teams are fairly set, and there might be a push for the last wildcard position, which that team's going to duck out of the first round of the playoffs anyway. So there's not much to it. Whereas this Eastern Conference is fit and firing. This is probably the best division in hockey this year. The Atlantic, the Metro is still doing okay, but this race for the third spot for me is going to be the most exciting check, because we've got the Red Wings, we've got the Canadiens, we've got the Bruins, and that's not including the other teams we'll touch on too, but obviously those are the big 3 looking at the third place, and there's no guarantee that the other 2 teams are going to get a wildcard spot depending on what happens in the Metro.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, Detroit, I've said it all year, I think they're playing well above their sort of general skill level. I don't really want them in the playoffs because I prefer the Canadiens. So it makes it difficult to root for. But for me, it's just that they're a -1 in a division full of pluses.
Yeah.
And a plus-minus in everything. But they're just a good team. They should be a wildcard team.
Yeah. I don't disagree with
you. They continue on their away trip with the Panthers, Lightning, and the Stars. So that is, on paper, a fairly tough road trip. We'll see how they get on.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of the Canadiens, they're down a spot. They've had their LA away trip this week with the Sharks, Ducks, and the Kings. And they've lost to the Sharks 7-5, lost to the Ducks in a shootout 6-5, and then beat the Kings 4-3. So some crazy, crazy games, high-scoring games, but they're down in 4th on 78 points with a record of 34, 18, and 10.
Yeah, some blockbuster scorelines there. Close games, a lot of them. That Sharks game was just end-to-end madness. That was 2 young teams really just absolutely throwing everything into it. But yeah, they moved down a spot into 4th, only a point back from the Red Wings. But they do have kind of a 14-goal advantage on their plus-minus. They've got the Maple Leafs coming up at home, the Senators on the road, the Sharks and the Ducks at home. I'm still kind of feeling quite optimistic about this Montreal team. They just need to get enough goaltending to get them over the line. I mean, both goalies over 4.5 goals conceded, and both at, well, Dobesh with an 864 and Montembeau with an 848. Yeah, they need a really solid goaltender. They need a Jesper Wallstedt.
They do. That would have been a great trade for Montreal. I don't even know if that was ever thought or discussed seriously in any way. But for me, we need to see more Cam Fowler. It is Cam Fowler. I forgot his first name.
No. Cam Fowler's on the Blues. Jacob Fowler.
Jacob Fowler.
That is not the first time we've done that.
It's not the first time, and it won't be the last. It's because I go by surnames on our sheet, so I see Fowler and I automatically think, yeah. But he's a great young goaltender. I'm not sure why they're still playing Montembeau. It's a thing I keep repeating myself. But ultimately, this is a young team, kind of like the Sharks and kind of like the Ducks, who they can't defend to save their life. But they're entertaining, they're fun. I want to see them in the playoffs for that basis, because a 7-game series will be entertaining, especially when there's sort of game series on the line. You'll see some fantastic hockey.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to 5th place. We're dropping off by 2 points now, so 76 points is the Boston Bruins. Record of 35, 22 and 6, sat on the plus 12. So they've got 5 points in out of 8. 2 wins against the Penguins and the Capitals, 2-1 and 3-1 respectively. A 6-3 loss to the Predators and an overtime loss to the Penguins. Of note, they won their home games and lost their away games.
Yeah, bit of a 50-50 week for the Bruins. They're keeping themselves just within that kind of within an arm's reach of a playoff spot. So they're not out of it yet, but kind of a 50-50. Well, 5 points from the 8 points available kind of week. They've got the Kings and the Sharks coming up at home, then the Capitals on the road. I don't think you can ever count out Boston as a team. We'll see we'll see if they're able to. I think it's obviously going to require one of those other teams to fall down a little bit, and it's going to require Boston to be kind of really consistent through this last sort of 20 games. And we'll see how it ends up shaking out for them. But I think they're still sort of within touching distance.
Swayman's had a good week. He played against the Penguins and the Capitals. So he conceded a goal per game in that. A save percentage of 9.66. They're a team a lot like the Red Wings in that they're overperforming compared to where we expected them to be. One of these teams, I think, should be a wild card playoff team, with the Canadiens finishing 3rd, and that's what I want. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out.
There's a bit of a gap now. We absolutely pummeled them in our power rankings, but only 3 points behind the Bruins is the Ottawa Senators. They're 6th in this division, record of 32, 22 and 9 on the plus 16.
We gave the Senators an absolute blasting in our power rankings, but they're now only 3 points out of a wild card spot. Obviously, that spot currently occupied by Boston. They have had a fairly generous schedule, I think, this week. Obviously, having the Flames and the Canucks, obviously both on the road. All their games have been on the road, but they still got the wins there. 7 points from 8. Pinto and Stützle both with 5 points apiece, as well as Amadio, Batherson, Kachuk, and Shabbat also at 4 points apiece as well. James Reimer getting a shutout in 2026, which was not on my bingo card. But yeah, Ottawa keep themselves. Again, we kind of absolutely hammered them, but they're not out of it yet. They've got 3 home games coming up as well. They've got the Habs. That'll be a really important game, as well then as the Ducks and the Sharks. So, I don't know. Again, going back a few weeks, I said that they'd blown it, but I think from the position they were in, I think obviously they've still been sort of disappointing, and they're now sort of scrabbling around potentially for a wild card spot. But it's not impossible.
Yeah, I remember you being slightly harsher on them than I potentially was. I've always liked this team. They've displayed chaotic energy, whether for good or for bad. They've obviously they've bounced back. All Knight's come back. They've seemed to have settled down a little bit, picking up some decent results. Are they going to be a playoff team? I think on the balance of how the season's gone, I don't think they should be. But
No.
you can't discredit them for what they've done. They're on a plus 16. They're seemingly winning games similar to the Detroit Red Wings are, and things like that. So, I mean, it might be a case of a missed opportunity for them this year as opposed to anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a missed opportunity summarises it perfectly.
Yep. And on the contrary to a sort of a missed opportunity and sort of like an embraced dysregularity, I don't know what the antonym for opportunity is. But in 7th place is the Florida Panthers on 65 points. Record of 31, 29 and 3 on a minus 19. I think even they themselves have sort of called it for this year. They're not going to sneak in through the back door. This is going to be...
Easy now.
I just saw your eyebrows raise.
I have broken your train of thought there so bad. Sorry. They are. Yeah, they are done. Obviously, they were quite inactive around the deadline. By all accounts, they're kind of trying to focus on getting an extension done for Sergei Bobrovsky, as well as AJ Greer.
Bobrovsky!
That's a new one. I did not know you had that loaded up. I like that. Yeah, so but he's 37 now. And they're looking at kind of extending. I mean, you know, this is the Florida Panthers. They've got half their roster extended into their 40s. So what's another one at this point? But yeah, I think they'll probably get that done. I think Bobrovsky probably wants to stay in Florida. They don't have kind of a young goaltender in the pipeline. They did, and then they traded him to Chicago. So they
Tarasov's been all right.
Yeah, he's been okay. He's not Spencer Knight, but he's okay. Yeah, so I think they'll probably get that done. It'll be a nice sort of modest deal that's not going to cripple them too badly. It'll free up some cap space for them. But yeah, I think this is it's they're in kind of rest and recuperation mode now, I think.
Yeah, they are, and the thing is, they kind of accept it as well. I know we can blame them. We've said it all year. I don't see any fans sort of kicking off about it, really.
No, they're wiping their tears with their Stanley Cup rings.
Absolutely. As opposed to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are wiping up their tears and setting them aflame somehow. But bottom of this division, 65 points, 27, 26 and 11 on a minus 24. 4 games, 4 losses. Well, the 2 of them were in a shootout, but still, you lose against the Flyers and the Devils, the Rangers and then the Lightning.
Yeah, and from what I recall, last week, were they not the only team to have lost every game in regulation?
I think so, yeah. And they haven't won a game since the Olympic break.
And they haven't, yeah, and they are not in a lot of these games as well. See, the shootouts were the shootouts, but then a 6-2 loss to the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden, and then a loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning as well. But it's all good because Mason Michelli was a point per game, so all good there. Yeah, I don't really know kind of what this Toronto team do. You just know. I mean, if there is any sort of tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists out there who said that the draft lottery was rigged when Chicago landed Bedard, you haven't seen shit yet. You wait and see how far up the draft lottery that Toronto jump up and land, you know, Ivar Stenberg or Gavin McKenna or something. You know, what a way to reward an absolute kind of dumpster fire team. And they haven't even been trying to be bad this year. They have just been bad. Obviously now they've traded away certified all-star and first-round pick quality player Scott Lawton. They also traded away Bobby McMahon. So they traded away some guys. They've reloaded some picks back the other way. I don't really know kind of what happens for this team moving forward. But what I will say is Austin Matthews must be very happy that he only signed that 4-year extension as opposed to committing balls to the wall for 8.
And this is Austin Matthews, who's just captaining USA to the Olympic title. He's come back to Toronto, spirits held high, thinking, right, this is what we're going to crack on with. And it's just been absolutely woeful. Goaltending, shocking. The bottom of this division, the only team worse of them in the Eastern Conference right now is the New York Rangers. It's going to be, I would sign up to a subscription to an unknown media thing, whatever, like Netflix, but lower down, just for a documentary on the behind-the-scenes Toronto Maple Leafs for this season and into the off-season. Like Hard Knocks or Drive to Survive or something like that, where you can just really get into it a little bit, because it must be popcorn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we had the Toronto series the other year, where they were they were pushing for playoffs and everything, and all the vibes were kind of pretty decent. But yeah, to be a fly on the wall for this season in Toronto must be something special. They're just bad.
It'd be akin to, like, it's a TLC. That's what I'm thinking of. Sort of like people who drink gasoline, or like the £1,000 Sisters show, but this time it's just a dysfunctional reality show of a professional sports team. I think that'd be box office.
Yeah, I think William Nylander would love that as well. Like he'd just be flipping everyone off.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Right, let's get out of this division.
Franchise.
We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have some more NHL action, our next segment, and we'll be right back.
Stars of the week. Stars of the week. Feel the power. Feel the beat.
Another masterpiece there, Matt. The Stones of the week. It's got to be the Tampa Bay Buffalo Sabres game from a couple of nights ago. It finished 8-7, but more importantly, it finished with 8-7 players left on each of the team's benches.
Yes, it did. Both teams across that game combining for a grand total of 100 penalty minutes. Brandon Hagel getting fined $5,000 for his role in the brawl. He's a little pest. Love him, but he's a pest. And it just descended into utter chaos. Fists being thrown, punches left and right. The penalty boxes were stuffed to the brim with just like, there was almost just not enough room for all of them. They're all just having to like penguin in there together. Which
looking
made
each other, like, all laughing.
Yeah, it was just absolute chaos, and came in an 8-7 game. This might end up going down as one of the games of the year.
Yeah, absolutely was. It's kind of like the pre-season game, but they actually play some decent hockey off the back of it as well. And then, despite all these penalties, believe it or not, Tampa Bay didn't score a single goal on the power play. Buffalo scored quite a few, but I will touch on the Hagel one, because that's kind of got the most sort of media thing on it, and he's taking on Rasmus Dahlin and sort of targeting him and just trying to fight him, and Dahlin has no interest in it whatsoever. But this is my public service announcement. Do not feel bad for Darlene on this occasion, because if you watch the full footage, the full clip, there's a cheeky little cross-check into the back of Hagel, which kind of got him a bit riled up. So he stuck it in there and then pretended he did nothing wrong, and that was an innocent victim. Stop it with them eyebrows.
Stop setting me up.
Stick it in there.
He stuck what? He stuck what in where, Nathaniel? Sorry for breaking your concentration yet again, but look, yeah, I agree completely. It's a little bit of a cheap play from Darlene to be like to cross check a guy in the back. He turns around and is like, "Well, go on then. Let's have at it." And he's like, "Well, I didn't do anything. What are you talking about?" Like it's yeah, it was a bit of a cheap play. Side tangent. It reminds me massively. There was a video back in the day. Are you aware of the band Sugar Ray?
No.
Ah, man, like early noughties, like great band. Absolutely love Sugar Ray. And one of the lead singers walking through the parking lot after a show, and there's a guy there who calls him Sugar Gay. And Mark McGrath, the singer, proceeds to like turn around and start getting in the face of this like kid who's like, I didn't say anything. What are you talking about? I didn't say anything at all. And it just kind of gave that kind of level of energy to me of like, if you get to cross check someone in the back, like own it. And if they want to drop the gloves, like, I mean, Darlene's massive as well. He's like 6'4". Hagel's not the biggest guy, like, you know, actual height wise. You know, Darlene probably could have like beat him all over the ice if he wanted to, but yeah, it just it was a bit of a cheap move, but yeah, it was an absolutely box office game. Absolute stones displayed by, well, everyone probably barring Rasmus Dahlin, who I know he is someone who we are not done speaking about on this show. We'll a little bit of a teaser there, but yeah. Which division is up next then, Nathaniel? Where are we going? Not the Pacific.
Not the Pacific. No, by my maths, we've done the Central, we've done the Atlantic. We're not going to do the Pacific.
Ah, the Metro, of course.
Ah, the Metro, of course. Yes. First overall in the Metro Division is still the Carolina Hurricanes, 86 points, record of 40, 17 and 6, with a plus 41. 4 games on the road. Again, the Western Canadian plus Seattle road trip. They won 2 and lost 2. So, yeah, 4 out of 8.
Yeah, and I'm really hesitant now to make any sort of claims or, you know, say that things are going to happen because they ultimately end up being proven wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. Carolina have a 8-point lead at the top of this division. They can't blow the top of this league now at some point, you know, between now and the end of the season, surely.
No. I can't see that happening. So, it probably will.
Yeah, yeah,
We've
they've got the...
year, yeah.
Go on, sorry, I cut you off there.
We've said it all year that this is probably the best team in this division, sort of coasting a little bit. I mean, they're on 86 points. They're no more on Minnesota, etc. But we have seen them lose an occasional few games, but they're just a powerhouse who would just end up in the playoffs. And they're my pick for the Eastern Conference Stanley Cup. Yeah. Representatives.
Yeah, it's they're locked in now, I think.
Yeah, it's just a shame this team. They're a bit boring. They do score goals. It's not like Seattle where they just seem to be a bit better. They've got plenty of players who chip in with points, but they're just so professional going about their business.
Yeah,
There's not really much to go on. Like, they're just a good team.
yeah, they are. They're just like you say, they're just very professional. They just get it done. They don't kind of mess around, and they just get it kind of sorted, really, don't they? They're just very sort of rudimentary in the way that they just sort of crack on.
Never seem to have a bad week or a great week. If the average is 4 games a week, they'll probably win 3 and lose 1.
Yeah,
And that's just kind of how they go.
yeah, absolutely. And obviously the addition of Nick Delorier for a conditional 7th round pick, that can't be understated.
Riveting topic. Let's deep dive that move.
Well, the only thing that I mentioned at that point is like, why are we sticking conditions on seventh round picks? Just give them the pick.
We might go down to future considerations.
Well, yeah, potentially. That future considerations gets traded every 5 minutes, it seems, in the NHL.
All the time.
Poor guy.
Honestly, that autobiography is going to be all over the place. Who knows? We can pick that up. Yeah, he's got meetings at the local bookstores for signings all over the country. Right, we'll move on then to the second place team. Remaining in the 7th is the Pittsburgh Penguins, 78 points. Record of 32, 17 and 14 on a plus 25. And they've had a bad week.
Yeah.
Well, they lost to Bruins, lost to the Sabres, lost in a shootout against the Flyers, and beat the Bruins in overtime in their second game of the week.
Yep. Following up from your 50-50 split on when 2 teams play each other in a week, usually they win 1 and lose 1. So, score 1 for Nathaniel there in the podcasting hot takes section. But yeah, it's been a bit of a down week for Pittsburgh. Absolutely blasted me there.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're all good. Yeah, Erik Karlsson with 4 points on the week. Yeah, some slightly shaky goaltending from Seelovs and Skinner. They've got the Hurricanes, the Golden Knights, and the Mammoth coming up on the road. So they're not going to want to continue this. They're going to hope they can kind of kick the bad form sort of into touch and try and pick up a few more wins. But facing off against the Hurricanes isn't going to be easy. And then they've got the Golden Knights and the Mammoth as well, who are both kind of very respectable teams. They're a team that are they're missing Sidney Crosby. That can't be understated. And hopefully he's back in time for that kind of final push.
Yeah, they're missing another player as well, but we'll get into that later. We're leaving the breadcrumbs there.
Yeah.
This team is, I don't know, they've been a really big surprise package, but I'm now at the point now where they're probably going to get into the playoffs. And I'm thinking, are they going to be serious contenders?
Nah.
And I don't think they are. So now I'm looking at how these matchups are going to form in the playoffs, and would I would have preferred to have another team from a different division playing, potentially. But then again, I'm not dead against this team. If they make it, they deserve it.
Yeah.
Be fun to watch.
So the benefits of an 82-game season is that no team kind of ends up in the playoffs by accident. Generally, like it's you get enough games over the course of the season for these things to kind of balance out. So if they're there on merit, and they've still vastly overperformed to what we expected. So we'll see how they go, but they're going to need to kick that bad form shortly.
So we have the third team in this division, the New York Islanders, still on. Well, actually, they are on 77 points. They did win a game in overtime. They beat the Sharks 2-1, but they also lost against the Ducks and the Kings 5-1 and 5-3 respectively. So they got a record of 36, 23 and 5, sat on the +5. They've had a bit of a poor week, so them and the Penguins are kind of in the same position.
Yeah, they've kind of opened a little bit of a doorway this week of these two teams but with their own form, to kind of let some of those other teams potentially back in. No player at a point per game. 2 points taken from 6. I still like this Islanders team. I would like to see this Islanders team in the playoffs for nothing other than Schaefer's unreal efforts this season. I would love to see them in the playoffs. I would love to see Schaefer win the Calder. They've got the Blues, the Kings again, and the Flames coming up. So if there was ever a week to dispel some kind of shaky form, this is probably the week for them to do it.
Yeah, agreed. I like this team. I mean, I like the Penguins as well, but I think Penguins are... I was going to say the Penguins have been historically a very good team, and it'd be nice to see some different teams in the playoffs, but the Islanders have also been a team well in the playoff mix in the past. So, yeah, not much new has changed, really. They both kind of lost a few games, but what it has done has allowed the fourth place team to really pull themselves into it again.
Yeah, one of the teams that played 5 games this week, of which there weren't many, but they've certainly been busy, have the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, the upper spot. They're in 4th, 74 points now, only 3 points behind the Islanders. A record of 32, 21 and 10 on a +1, but they've played 5 games, they've won 3 and then lost 2 in overtime. So they've been gathering the points, and that coaching change has produced results, and this could be a team that could make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're 2 points out of a wild card spot at the moment, only 3 points behind the Islanders for that 3rd place playoff spot in their division. And they've been racking up the points, 8 points taken from 10. Great week from Kirill Marchenko. He got 8 points in those 5 games. Charlie Coyle with 7 points as well across those. They're pushing, and they're one of those teams, obviously nowhere near the same as kind of like the Buffalo Sabres, but they're one of those teams that are showing some really good late season form and kind of propelling themselves into that playoff picture. Obviously, they added Connor Garland at the trade deadline from Vancouver, which I really like. I really like that addition. I really like Connor Garland as a player. Adds a bit of depth scoring for them, and if this team can keep pulling in the same direction and really band together for this, they could make a late push and hopefully we can maybe see them in the postseason. They've got the Lightning coming up, the Panthers and the Flyers all on the road. So particularly with the way that Tampa have played recently, there's probably no better time to play them. But yeah, they could creep themselves into some very good positions. Nice. Yeah, go on. Nice.
Got you back. No, I like this. I like this team. Also, the Gaudreau passing, I think, has made everyone fall in love with this team. Everyone wants this team to do well.
Yeah.
They started off the season poorly. They've turned it around. And I think I sort of set it up here, where I think my perfect scenario for the playoffs would be for Pittsburgh to drop off. Maybe they get a wild card spot, but Columbus gets into the playoffs one way or the other.
Yeah,
that's what I'd like to see.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I don't think that's I don't think that's sort of too far fetched either. I think that you've got 2 teams above the Blue Jackets who are kind of stuttering a little bit at the moment, and Columbus who are kind of just going on a bit of a tear at the moment. So I think that's a very realistic possibility.
Yeah. One thing I just wanted to mention as well is in a game against the Utah Mammoth, the Columbus Blue Jackets not only had one Gordie Howe hat trick, they had 2 in the same game. Matthew Olivier and Severson as well. They got a goal, assist, and a fight each.
Yeah, it's rare that you'll see 1 in a game, let alone 2 on the same team in the same game. But yeah, we all love a Gordie Howe hat trick. It's 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 one of those kind of niche little things that you see every now and then. So yeah, good, yeah, interesting to see them get two. Yeah, nice little. Again, if we had an NHL historian on standby, I'd love to know the last time that happened.
Yeah. But we don't, which is sad. You're our best hope. Fifth place in his division, down a spot, is the Washington Capitals. They're on 71 points, a record of 32, 26 and 7. On the plus 12, 3 games this week. They lost 2 against the Mammoth and the Bruins, but they beat the Flames 7-3, and that was a weird game last night. But I think this team is going to regret trading John Carlson.
I think they will, and they won't. I think ultimately, they got a conditional first round pick back in exchange. He's probably got a few years left as John Carlson, but I think ultimately, this team is preparing for kind of life after Ovechkin. They got the, obviously got the record, and that was kind of seemingly what the team was pushing for really hard. And now that's kind of happened. They're a bit of an older team. They've got some good young players, like guys like Ryan Leonard and who got 3 points in 3 games this week. So he's a really exciting part of their future. I think at this point they're obviously 6 points out of a playoff spot, 5 points out of a wild card spot. I wouldn't say that was an insurmountable deficit for them to make up, but I just think with the way that this team is sort of constructed, I think it might be kind of like a little bit of a bridge too far. I don't see the needle pointing up for them. I kind of see it sort of projecting kind of more downwards at this point, and I think we are probably pretty close to a Washington Capitals retool. Yeah.
Retool, not retool.
No, full rebuild. Build that team around Ryan Leonard and Aiden Thompson and some of the other kind of good young players they've got. Jacob Chikrin's been great this year, but that there'll come a time where they have to move on from your Carlson. Well, obviously moved on from Carlson, but Ovechkin and Wilson and some of those other guys. So they've got the Flyers and the Sabres on the road, and then the Bruins at home. So again, I wouldn't want to go to Buffalo at the moment with the way that they're playing, but the Flyers and the Bruins. If they can take some points off the Bruins, it maybe sort of brings the wild card question back in, but I think just it's a little bit too far for them.
Yeah. And this is who I bring in, I can't believe I'm bringing them ahead of their spot in this podcast, which will be last. But the Vancouver Canucks is an example of a team where the squad gets obliterated one way or the other, and they are sort of forced into a rebuild. Teams will always want to be as successful as possible. Sell seats, sell tickets, shirts, this, that, and the other. The Washington Capitals are close to, they pretty much easily could be in the playoffs this year, and he could easily do well in the playoffs, which is why the Carlson trade took me by surprise, because they're kind of accepting that they need to maybe go into this rebuild maybe a year too early. Now, is it a sign of good roster management and good turnover? Or is it a case of they're just giving it up too early? Because they could continue on, make a push, not trade Carlson, make some trades themselves, and then find themselves in the Vancouver Canucks position next year. But is it worth the sacrifice of another playoff push this year or not? That's the ultimate question.
Yeah, I think so, and I don't think, obviously, without being in the Capitals GM's office, I don't think we won't know. But I think that is, they've still got. Man, I'm not a massive fan of. They've got Tom Wilson for another 5 years at $6.5 million. I mean, he's only 31 at the moment. I mean, the guy looks kind of significantly older than that. I think he's just got a lot of miles on the clock at this point. So he'll be hitting UFA status at 37. So maybe he sticks around. If they want to commit to the rebuild, someone like Tom Wilson is exactly the kind of guy built for playoff hockey. So he is someone who I think would garner a really good return if that was something that they decided that they wanted to do. So they've got the pieces to kind of move on. But if they do go into rebuild mode, I think it will probably be more by choice as opposed to Vancouver's kind of forced nature.
Imagine Tom Wilson on the Panthers next year. Marchand retires.
Jesus.
That'd be fun. But this Capitals team is on 71 points, as we'll touch on in a specific division. They've been fighting for top spot in that division.
Yeah.
So it's just weird perspectives. But we'll go into the into the dregs. They're only 2 points behind the Capitals, but we'll touch on the 6th place team, the Philadelphia Flyers. I think there is definitely a drop in quality here. I don't know why. This team sort of put a chip on my shoulder now. But the record 29, 23, and 11, sat on a minus 17. They lost 2 games and won 2 games in a shootout. So they've scored 4 in 8. But this is a team that's not going to get into the playoffs.
No, not for me. Not for me. No players at a point per game over 4 games. They got shut out by the Mammoth. They're sat on a very nice 69 points at the moment. But, if that was a bridge too far for the Capitals, it's certainly a bridge too far for the Philadelphia Flyers. And I just don't think they have the quality yet to be a playoff team. But equally, they are kind of one of those teams sat around that middle purgatory area that we always talk about in the NHL, where they're not really good enough to be a playoff team, but equally, unless there's some New York Islanders style kind of lottery jumps, they're going to kind of struggle to rebuild through the draft as well. So, I don't really know where the quality in this team comes from. If they can figure out kind of the Michkov situation, and he can become the player that everyone thinks he could be, then I think that's one thing. I think Matvei Michkov can absolutely become the player that everyone thought he was going to be. I just don't think that'll happen in Philadelphia.
Well, I've got some breaking news on that. Matvei Michkov is moving to right wing again.
Oh.
In a move hoped to realise his full potential as an NHL player. I say this sarcastically because they actually released a news article to say that after trading away Bobby Brink, that Mishkov's going to move to right wing and they think he'll do a proper good job there. And I just think it's hocus pocus bullshit, and this player just needs to fucking leave this team and do his trade somewhere that they actually take it seriously. But yeah. Yes. I would love for him to play in Chicago, even though he'll end up scoring against Minnesota probably several times a year. But that would be the perfect move because he's just getting wasted there.
Agreed.
And if we're not careful, a couple more years from there, he's going to end up going back to the KHL and we'll never see him again.
Yeah.
But we'll move on then into the 7th place team. 66 points, New Jersey Devils, 32, 30 and 2 record, minus 26. They've won 3 games out of 4, but I think it's too little too late.
Yeah, absolutely. Good little week for them. Obviously kind of ended with them being shut out by the Red Wings. But yeah, good week for them, but they've left it with too much to do at this point. Even with sort of Jack Hughes going on the week that he has. Even a decent goaltending week from Jacob Markstrom, but yeah, they've just left it with too much to do. The wins they picked up were against the Panthers, the Maple Leafs, and the Penguins and the Rangers. Sorry, so those are certainly winnable games. But I think this team's going to have to look towards next season, have a big reflection over the summer about what kind of team they want to be. And they need to add a little bit of grit for me. Add some stones.
They had no excuse this year. A lot of teams have been floundering in this division. On paper, they should still be beating the Penguins and the Islanders, even with how well they've been performing this year. Our expectations would have been better than that. So the fact that they haven't done is just a reflection on them.
Yeah, agreed.
they've just missed out. Next year, they'll have teams who are actually really great, solid, more solid than the Islanders and the Penguins are. And the Devils going to have to fight through that to get through in again. So, yeah. And we'll touch on the last place team, 58 points. They're bottom of the Eastern Conference, and they're definitely in the McKenna sweepstakes. New York Rangers, 25-13-8 record, minus 25 plus minus. They've like 5 points in 8. Seems to be the common trend this week. But they lost in overtime to the Blue Jackets, beat the Maple Leafs and the Flyers, and then lost to the Devils, as we just spoke about.
Yeah, there isn't too much to say about this New York team. We know what they are and what they're kind of going to be, kind of for the foreseeable anyway. Obviously, they didn't trade Vincent Trocheck. I think that will probably happen. That'll happen over the summer. I don't think Trocheck's he's not a UFA this summer, is he? I don't think.
No, I think he's got a couple of years left on his contract.
So yeah, I think it could be a draft move, depending sort of where they end up coming out in the lottery. Could give them another avenue back into the back into the first round maybe. So he's still got. He's in year 4 of 7 at the moment. So another 3 years left at a $5.625 million cap hit. So, still 32 years old. If I'm Minnesota, I'm certainly picking up the phone again in the summer, but I'm not meeting the price that they were asking for at the deadline. I think you maybe try and, I think he would be a good piece to that team, or a good piece to a contending team, maybe as like a 2C. But he's not at the price that they wanted.
No, the question gets raised about what's going to happen with Zibanejad. Lafreniere not lived up to his potential. Panarin's already gone. JT Miller is
dog shit.
The fact that Shesterkin is putting in the season he's been doing, he's played 39 games. He's won 20 of them. So he's won more than half of his games. And despite the season they're having, only one shutout, but a goals against average of 2.49 and a 913 save percentage is, in this league this year, top tier goalkeeping stats. And he's been trying to keep him in games. I think it's a shame that he's on this team at the minute, I think.
Yeah, it is. And, he's in the first year of his new 8-year deal as well. So I'm sure he'll be frustrated, as I don't think this will be what he signed up for. But, he's got another 7 years at the Rangers at an $11.5 million cap hit. That's going to be really hard to move. So he's going to have to backstop this team through a rebuild. And... at least they've got that. At least they've got kind of that piece locked up, and they know that they're not going to have to worry about goaltending for the next sort of 7 years. I'm sure he's cutting a frustrated figure, I think.
Definitely playing wise. I think in that market, Madison Square Gardens, you're the only star player on the Rangers team for the next couple of years. He's going to get plenty of marketing and plenty of opportunities to be the face of this franchise, which might be good for him in other ways.
Yeah,
but
I suppose so.
I think professional athletes do want to win cups and do really well, and not sit and watch your forwards miss the net constantly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right, we will take our final break, and when we come back, we'll have our final segment. We'll then be going through the Pacific Division to wrap all of this up. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Cheeks of the week. Cheeks of the week.
And that is one we did see last week, but it still makes me laugh.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
cheeks of the week this week.
I think that's one's probably my favourite.
The cheeks of the week this week is going to be Evgeny Malkin for the Pittsburgh Penguins, who decided to Happy Gilmore Rasmus Darling's face for some reason. Yeah, what do you think to that particular play?
Not what you would expect from someone of Evgeny Malkin's experience in the league. You would have thought he would maybe have a bit more of a lid on it than that. It definitely kind of seemed like more of a Ryan Reeves, Matt Rempe kind of cheap play, but yeah, it was an absolute kind of filthy play. Obviously garnered a 5-game suspension, fully deserved. Just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I know it's competitive sport, and I know that it's tensions are running high, but what on earth did Rasmus Dahlin say or do to merit that kind of response from Malkin? Really sort of bizarre play, boneheaded, dirty, and absolute buns.
Yeah. But I do wonder as well as what Darling is just doing this week. He's pissed in a lot of players' cereal, I think, because he had this thing from Malkin, he had this thing from from Brandon Hagel. It's just been an absolute nightmare. He's just getting abused for stuff he's done.
Yeah, he's don't know. I think he's been on a bit of a mean streak this week, but not actually backing any of it up.
No.
Right. The Pacific
Talk
Division.
About promising divisions where they're not backing it up. The Pacific Division. Oh boy.
Yeah.
The good news is there's a new team on top, and it's a team we probably like the most, and it's the Anaheim Ducks. I say that with them having lost 2 games and having to win one in a shootout, whilst winning the other game, which goes to show the state of this division. But 73 points tops this division. They got a record of 35, 25, and 3 on a -10 lead in this division.
Yeah, that is like the summary of the Pacific Division as a whole. I mean, there's no shame in losing 5-1 to the Colorado Avalanche. There's a bit more shame in losing 4-0 to the St. Louis Blues. It's a wild division in terms of just like there's some really weak ass teams in here, and it's kind of it's divisions like this that is kind of somewhat frustrating. That certain other teams have to miss out on the playoffs in order to let these like absolute bums in. But fortunately, we have a new division leader. It is the team that we like, the most. Obviously, they loaded up with John Carlson, presumably with adding some more experience to a young blue line. I'm just happy to see someone else on top and to see the second team sat in second.
Yeah. They go on an away trip this week, the Ducks, against the Jets, Maple Leafs, Senators, and Habs. I just hope they push on.
Yeah.
But that's it, really. But the second place team in this division, now the Vegas Golden Knights. 72 points, 29, 21, 14. It's a record. On a +4. Jesus.
Yeah,
They've
three
lost 3 games.
3 losses. 3 losses in 4.
Yeah.
Like, ugh. I mean, they played some good teams.
The Sabres 3-2. Yeah, Sabres 3-2, Wild 4-2, and the Oilers 4-2. So good teams, but
they're supposed to be
from Vegas.
They're supposed to be a divisional leader. They're supposed to be a cup contender. Like, win some games. Like we've touched on it the last few weeks. This is a team, the massive beneficiary of the overtime losers point. That accounts for 14 of their points this year. I don't know. I mean, this team's not particularly likable to begin with. So I'm just happy to see them down in second. If they want to fall any further, then by all means, like, crack on.
Maybe the Kraken will crack on.
Oh,
Get it?
nice. Good little wordplay there.
Nice. I like it. And before we talk about the crack on, we have to talk about the Oilers. Third place in this division, 70 points. 31, 25, and 8. And a +9. 3 games this week. 2 games won. Went to overtime against the Senators. But then beat, obviously, the Golden Knights, as we've just said. But then lost to the superior Carolina Hurricanes team 6-3.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of the same story week after week with these. Like, we look down the stats, like, Draisaitl, McDavid, and Bouchard were all at a point per game. Hyman was at a point per game. Ekholm was at a point per game. Their goaltending was hot shit. And they've kind of won a couple and lost one, and kind of puts them into a position where they probably will end up making the playoffs. I mean, they've got the Avalanche and the Stars up in their next 2 games, and then the Blues and the Predators afterwards. So they're on a Central Division Grand Tour. I mean, this team's always going to be there or thereabouts as long as they've got McDavid. So, they've now loaded up. They've added, they've added Connor Murphy. They've added Jason Dickinson. They've added Colton Dock from the Chicago Blackhawks. Stan Bowman going right back to Chicago to go and grab some players from there. Which are 3 guys who do add a lot of physicality and great defensive prowess and everything, which is exactly what you need in the playoffs. They're also 3 players who do like an injury as well. Jason Dickinson's missed a fair amount of time this year. Colton Dock has had injury issues since the start of his career. Connor Murphy is probably a bit more consistent, but just due to the nature of how he plays, he's a big body, likes to get himself in front of shots and everything. He can also miss time as well. So if these 3 guys can stay healthy for Edmonton, then, it gives them, certainly rounds out their bottom 6 quite nicely. But that all kind of means nothing if your goalies can't stop the puck.
Yeah, Tristan Jarry, that trade has not worked.
It's
whatsoever.
blown up.
And I think he's even getting into scraps in practice from reports as well. So it's just kind of... They needed to make a play, and they made the wrong one.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of Edmonton fans seem to think that Jordan Binnington's going to be the answer to that problem. And that would just be so Oilers. If they end up trading for Jarry, it doesn't work, and then they end up trading for Binnington afterwards. It's like, just go out and get a goaltender who is good.
Get Wallstead.
Yeah, Wallstead for McDavid.
Yeah.
Who says no?
Oh, let's say Draisaitl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good bit of centre depth there, does Leon Draisaitl?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who I'd give up as well as Wallstead for Draisaitl. I don't know how much it would take, but not everything there. Anyway.
It probably starts with, like, Matt Boldy, probably Brock Faber as well. It'd be like Wallstedt, Faber, Boldy, and a first.
Yeah, that's a video game trade, I think.
Big time.
Yeah. Right. Cracking on then. 4th place is Seattle, 67 points. Record of 29, 24, and 9. Sat on a -9. Again, I just can't. It's the same every week. They beat the Hurricanes 2-1, then lost against the Blues 3-2 and the Senators 7-4. I'm looking at it thinking, there's probably quite a few decent games here, but I blinked and we're here. We talk about the Seattle Kraken. I know nothing about them.
Yeah, they kind of... they're epitomised by the fact they're like 19th in our power rankings. They're just so fucking mid. Yeah, they're there. They're 4th. They still don't have anyone anywhere near a point per game. Jordan Eberle signs a new 2-year contract extension, so yeah, happy days there. But yeah, they're just really boring, man. I don't really have anything to say.
The only thing I could scrape the bottom of the barrel is that I've got Jared McCann on my fantasy team. He's been injured most of the year, which has probably been a blessing in disguise because we got some game limits set So he's good to plug and play because I know he's not going to take up a full roster spot for the full year. But when he does play, he's got 33 points in 38, 16 goals, 17 assists. He's a decent player, fantasy-wise, for that purpose.
He's a good player. He's just not healthy enough. But yeah, they need to add some excitement into this team. Like Jesus, like just give us something because I feel like they're very quickly, and I've said it all season, they're very quickly as the NHL's sort of newest team in terms of the expansion. They're very quickly fading into like obscurity and just sort of no one really caring about them.
Yeah. I have to go back to McCann because I just thought of a good joke, but you should rename him McCain because he's fried.
Oh, that is a high quality British joke if I've ever heard one. That will mean nothing to any North American viewers, but but yeah, that is brilliant. Love that.
I like that.
Oh,
Right. God, this division's dreadful. 5th place, San Jose Sharks, 66 points. The breath of fresh air we all need. The palate cleanser. How many more adjectives can I use for this team? The record of 30, 25 and 6, minus 23. To beat the Canadiens 7-5 in that great game, but then lost in overtime to the Blues and the Islanders. So, fun. Could quite squeak into the playoffs potentially, but again, it's the same old story.
Yeah, same old story. Celebrini's good, Smith's good, Kiefer Sherwood scored a few points, but outside of Celebrini, you take him off this team and they're not particularly good. They might make some sort of run at a wild card spot, maybe, but I mean, even if they do, they're going to be absolutely. They're going to. Oh my God, the Seattle Kraken are sat in a fucking wild card spot, man. Jesus Christ!
I'm not telling you.
Oh my God. Jesus. Yeah. Well, I suppose in that regard, then I'd probably rather the San Jose Sharks probably did take that wildcard spot. They'd be more entertaining than the Kraken would be for the one round they'd be there. But yeah, they've good vibes. Good vibes in San Jose. Celebrini's awesome. He's not going to win the Hart Trophy this year, but it's inevitable at some point in his career.
I wish they include some kind of like loan arrangements like they do in football, because they're not gonna, if they don't make the playoffs, just loan Celebrini to a team in the playoffs, just so we can play playoff hockey. Maybe the same as Bedard as well.
Yeah, loan them both to the Seattle Kraken and make them interesting.
Right. 6th place, LA Kings. 66 points, 26, 23, 14 on a minus 22. I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place now because I kind of need them to make a playoffs for my early bit in the season with them and the Blues, but I don't want them to because they're just really boring.
Yeah, and I don't particularly want to talk about any of their scores or anything. I just want to touch on something that got you really pissed last week. So the LA Kings trade Corey Perry back to Tampa Bay for a second round pick, which is absolutely wild for me. I can't believe that Corey Perry's still getting second round picks at the age of 40. Corey Perry, previously wearing number 10. Artemi Panarin has now taken the number 10 jersey at LA, making his whole publicity stunt, buying Bailey the Rolex and everything like that, makes it a completely null and void situation, because within 2 weeks of Panarin arriving, he's swapped his jersey number. So the guy who's in the Bailey suit has got himself a free Rolex, and it's ended up not even being necessary or needed. That's all I have to say on the LA Kings.
Fuck this team.
Yeah. 7th?
I'd be in a rush to move off of them but then I've seen the next two teams you have to talk about. I'm just like, right, okay. Roll credits. 7th place, Calgary Flames, 57 points. 25, 31, and 7, sat on a minus 38. They beat the Hurricanes somehow 5-4. But other than that, they've been hot trash.
Yeah. Yeah, blasted by the Stars, blasted by the Senators and the Capitals. 3 guys, though, at a point per game. Coleman, Frost, and Farabee. I mean, obviously, they've traded away Uyghur. We know what Calgary are doing at this point. They're trying to sort of load up some assets and try and get themselves well within there for for the final standings, try and get themselves as high up as possible. We will do a tankathon spin to round this out and see if they end up landing McKenna. Well, that was fun. Small little technical issue there. The Pacific Division is that bad that Nathaniel's device just couldn't take it and decided to just short circuit and crash. So, yeah, I mean, just to kind of tie a bow on the Flames, they suck. Final team?
They do suck. I did want to mention something about the Flames because I was watching the Capitals game last night, and my wife was getting sleepy, starting to nod off while I'm watching the hockey, and she keeps getting woken up by the goal horn for the Capitals scoring. And when I told her who keeps on scoring, and she later said, "Oh, well, they're not exactly on fire, are they?" And I've never been a more proud NHL watching husband than that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's when they get it. Yeah, I remember watching a game at the during the Olympics with my wife, and I can't remember, like a particular play happened. She went, "Oh, that's offside," and I was like, "Ah, we did it." She's invested.
Because actually a slashing call, but
no, it was actually offside. Yeah, she called it. So yeah, it was a very proud moment.
Great stuff.
Yeah. Right, final team,
Absolutely
the Vancouver Canucks. My God, the fact they beat the Blackhawks is depressing enough in itself. But they lost the other 4 games they played with no players at a point per game. Nathaniel.
Yeah, minus 73. There isn't much to say here. There's literally nothing to say here.
The only point that I wanted to mention with this team, and it's not even about the results this week, it was more of just like, do you think this will happen type thing. Depending on how bad the this team is, Elias Pettersson is currently in year 2 of 8 of his contract that carries an $11.6 million cap hit. Do you think there's any way that they potentially move this? Is Elias, because Elias Pettersson's a great player, and we know this. He's done it before. He's been absolutely brilliant. If you can move him somewhere where he can be the, point per game threat that he has shown that he can be, $11.6 million looks all right. But I just think that if a team takes a punt on that and he's the same guy there that he is in Vancouver, then you are stuck with an $11.6 million landmine that then no one will touch. If he goes somewhere else and he can't pull it together, then at that point, you're not getting an opportunity to move him again. So I don't know. But he looks absolutely miserable in Vancouver, as you would expect. Obviously, there was all the stuff last season with him and Miller. Obviously, Miller seemed to be kind of seemingly the issue there, as he was the one that was traded. But yeah, I don't know.
I think Pettersson's a disruptor as well.
You think?
I think he's just as much in that. It takes 2 to tango. We're not looking at a case of, but not bullying here, where there's one victim of some stuff, that there's been disagreements and drama in the locker room, and therefore it takes 2.
Yeah.
I think if he does get traded, it's retention.
Yeah, but that's 6 years worth of retention, and that's difficult. Fair play to Pat Brisson, his agent. I mean, I'm sure he took home a chunky agent fee out of that. He's like Pat Brisson's like the NHL super agent. I know he represented Taves and Kane in the past. He represents like he represents Nathan McKinnon, Elias Pettersson, Seth Jones, Sidney Crosby, Dylan Larkin, Owen Power, Jack Hughes, Quinn Hughes, Jason Roberts. He's like the guy. Pat Brisson is currently responsible for 1.4 billion's worth of NHL salary.
For what? Like, I don't. An agent? Like what? I don't.
Oh wait. Of all active contracts for the current, yeah. So he has a total cap hit. Pat Brisson's clients have a total cap hit of 267 million, but it's 1.4 billion in like signing bonuses and everything
contract
like that.
values and stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, he's the guy. But yeah, I don't know, trying to do anything other than talk about Vancouver. I think there'd have to be some sort of retention involved in that.
But you see it, there's players mainly for like injury retirements and stuff like that. Where players aren't retiring because they're still on the contract, and their contracts get traded around left, right, centre for retention purposes. And then just sitting on books of bad teams with plenty of space.
Yeah.
There's potentials that people do something like that, or like a three-team trade where I don't know exactly how it all works, but a 3-team trade where a team takes on 5 million worth of cap for a second-round pick or something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right, before we go into the final stats of the week, I've got Tankathon open. I'll do a quick lottery spin. We'll go through the top 5. As it stands at the moment, the team picking number 1 overall will be the New York Rangers, with Chicago taking at number 2, Vancouver taking at number 3, Calgary at 4, and St. Louis at number 5. So New York take Stenberg, Chicago take McKenna, and everything else after that is open to interpretation.
McKenna thing's been dropped yet? I haven't actually seen what's going on with that.
Yeah, all got withdrawn. And then he's been on an absolute point scoring tear for Penn State, kind of in the latter half of the season. He had an 8-point game, and has just clearly just took it personally and decided to go and do his talking on the ice. Don't disrespect Gavin McKenna's mum, or he will absolutely destroy you both on and off the ice.
Right.
So, Nathaniel, do you want to run us through the final stats of the week? And yes, I'll wrap us through the final ones of the season, and then we'll get out of here.
Cool. So, top point scorers of the week: Nikita Kucherov, Max Scheifele, Martin Necas, and Kirill Marchenko, each with 8 points, but Nikolai Ehlers with 5 goals. And the penalty box award for penalty minutes is Matthew Olivier with 27 minutes. I think all of them coming in that Geordie Howe game, probably.
Yeah.
But then in terms of season in general, McDavid's still out front with 108, McKinnon at 104, and Kucherov at 103. Celebrini is still on 80 odd, so he's dropped off. But top goals is McKinnon at 43, Caulfield at 37, and Kirill Kaprizov at 36.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the penalty box perspective award for penalty minutes, Nikita Zadorov got another 2 minutes for 127, Kastelik at 112, and Ross Johnston has taken over from Arber Xhekaj and is 107.
Yeah, I initially was looking at that thinking, like, that surely can't be Wyatt Johnston. Absolutely not, surely. No, it's not. It's Ross Johnston.
And I got the name right.
Get in.
Fit.
Right. As always, guys, you can find us on both X and Instagram at the PBP Podcast. You can also find us on TikTok at Penalty Box Perspective. You can watch the podcast in video format, both on Spotify and also on YouTube at the Penalty Box Perspective's official YouTube page. If you want to give us a 5-star review on either Apple Podcast or Spotify, or if you want to go and like and subscribe over at YouTube as well. That always helps us massively. It's always massively appreciated, guys. Please go follow us where you can. Thanks for being with us, as always. Really glad to have Nathaniel back on this one. We'll be back at the end of the week with a shorter episode. But yeah, thanks for being with us for some more NHL action.